What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be playing through Venom1's 75 on Magic Online. If you haven't been keeping up to loop with some of the news around Dimir FrogTide, Venom1 has been top 8ing challenges after challenges after challenges for a minute now, and running almost the exact same 75 every single match. So I wanted to give the 75 a spin, see how it felt. Some of the notable changes or notable inclusions in this list, as opposed to what we normally play. 2 spell snares instead of 3. 3 copies of Preordained, so not even running the full 4 of the 1 mana cantrip. 2 Tamiyo, 2 Kaito, 2 Subtlety. So a little bit heavier on the threats in the main with the Kaitos and the Tamiyo. The 2 Subtlety getting included. We played a lot of Subtlety, top 8 a few challenges with it back after BFG posted a Subtlety heavy list first off the bat. And then we've got a lot of 4-ofs, which is really cool. So 4 Push, 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Counterspell, 4 Bowman, 4 Psychic Frog, 3 Murktide, 3 Force. So a lot of cards we're familiar with. This one of Sauron's Ransom in the main. I know I've been very critical of the card in the past. Maybe it shows off for me today. And in the sideboard, it is a really clean sideboard. So 3 copies of Harbinger of the Seas, 3 Stern Scolding, 4 Consigned to Memory, 2 Nihil Spellbomb, and then some 1-ofs with a Jace the Mind Sculptor, a Subtlety, and a Meat Hook Massacre. I have not played Jace the Mind Sculptor in a while. So we'll see if we get to cast this card. Hopefully should be good into anything like Orzhov or the Blue-Black Mirror, any blue-white control, something like that. But let's go ahead and just hop in, see if we can find some good matches, see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. I always think it's cool to take a chance to try out other people's lists, see what's working for them, maybe take some inspiration. We're on the draw. It's White Werewolf 29. Opening hand in the blind is reasonable. Nothing on 1, but we do have like turn 2 Frog, then Counterspell on 3, or turn 2 Bowmaster. So let's hope our opponent's not on like Eldrazi or a fast combo deck. I'd really like to drop this Frog down free and clear on 2. Flooded Strand Go. They did not reveal like a Kahira. So could be blue-white control. Could just be something using a Flooded Strand. Maybe it's like a mirror match. Looks like it is the Dimirror. Banning a Murktide Regent. So that to me would either scream like I've got a Murktide in hand, or I've got a I need like the land. If we can find like a Fatal Push. Thoughtseize isn't bad, but it's not quite what I'm looking for right now. All right. Options. Number 1, we could just play out our Psychic Frog and try to fight like on the discard axis, because I've got more stuff to discard than my opponent does. If they have a Fatal Push, however, that's pretty bad for me. Option number 2 is get a Bowmaster down. Try to get them to like spend a Fatal Push, getting rid of my Bowmaster, and then maybe I can find a way to deal with the Frog. Think I'm gonna go with that plan. I think if opponents got a Fatal Push, I'd rather them use it on my Bowmaster than use it on the Frog. Gives me another chance to maybe find like a Fatal Push or something of my own. And if not, I can always go for Sink into Stupor. Yep. All right, so opponent is going to use quite a few resources getting this attack in. It's looking like a spell snare or another copy of a fatal push. I know if I go for the sink into stupor, it's likely to be safe. But yeah, there's the spell snare. All right, so we're probably gonna have to take a hit off of this frog, untap, play our own frog, and get into a discard war. It's not the worst spot to be in, especially when like we were on the draw, so I get an extra look. If they have something like a FrogTide here, it's going to get a lot more complicated. Scry one top, one bottom. They do have the FrogTide, it looks like. All right. So let's see if we can find like a fatal push. Perfect. So now we'll go play out frog. Get another copy of spell snare. Okay. Push there, frog. We're going to have to take a hit off this FrogTide. And then we've got sink into stupor to try to reset it. Okay. I would like to go for sink into stupor on their instep. So that if they do have a counter, nice spell snare, there's a chance maybe we can set up like a counter spell at the next time they play it. If I sink into stupor it on their main phase, I would just run the risk of them having the ability to just recast it. Another counter spell. Bowmasters. Okay. Well, yep. Nothing we do about that one. On to game two. So we got spell bombs coming in. We've got stern scoldings, Jace, subtlety. Looks like everything I'm wanting to bring in. Board out, force of negation, dismember. Could board out like a preordain. Maybe even two. I'm really not a big dismember fan in the mirror. Last spot's a little awkward. I might just board out like a Thought Seize. Or just another preordain because they are a Bowmaster deck. We'll roll with this and see what happens. Pretty good opening hand. We're gonna lead on the Stern Scolding instead of the Preordain in case they have like a Tameo on turn 1. Don't want to be just cold to that. Mm. Nah. I like Bowmasters. I'm not hugely feeling like I need it right this second. Feel like I'd rather just find another land. We're going for a frog, or maybe they have a frog and a bowmaster and they're deciding. Land is a really, really nice pickup right there. So now I don't have to fire off this preordain yet. So if they have a bowmaster, I'd like to spell snare it or stern scolding it, so they can't have like bowmaster untap Kaito. Nope. Mm, I think I'm gonna take that. I think there's a chance this turn might go something like play preordain. They flash in bowmasters. I stern scolding, and if I can hit a blue source off preordain, I can just play Tameo, flip off the spell bomb. Well, I guess technically I hit a blue source. So let's go Snare, Dark Slick, Pass. Now I don't want to play out the Tameo in case they go like EOT Bowmaster, I Stern Scolding, untap Hardcast Kaito, and I might need to just subtlety that. Not looking like that's what it is. Hardcast Jace. Go off the Stern Scolding. Gonna evoke back. We'll put subtlety on the bottom. See what they decide to do with this spell snare. They keep the spell snare on top. See what we draw into, because I was gonna say I would love to hit a cantrip and be able to flip the Tameo right away. I assume they're just gonna minus Jace on the FrogTide. We're like in an awkward spot if they do still have a Bowmaster. Frog of their own. Frog, say go. This is the first Jace on Jace match I think I've seen since like 2009, which is really funny. Also, a little surprised that they're choosing to Fate Seal instead of Brainstorm, especially when I'm like tapped out here. I think we're just gonna put a Tameo and a Spell Snare back on top. But I want to draw into the Tameo so I can potentially flip it next turn. We'll go to pass the turn. On their upkeep, go for Fatal Push on the Frog. Nice. Bring her Fate Seal me again. Choosing to let me keep the Tameo on top. Okay. See if we resolve Tameo. All right. Let's put back Spell Snare and a Fatal Push. Tameo. Go. We're gonna have to do something about this Jace, but we've got a few looks at a way to deal with it. Would like to see one more land. FrogTide Regent. Okay, let's subtlety off a spell snare. See if opponent wants to keep this Murktide on top or lose it. Murktide on the bottom. So they have a card on top that they kept off of Jace. So I think I'm going to Fate Seal them, or that they kept off their Surveil. And I'm going to choose yes, because I want to put that Kaito at the bottom. Keep ticking up Tamio. I think I'm going to go for the main phase Sauron's Ransom here. I think I would like to find something like a Bowmaster just to keep this Jace in check. I know that my top card was a Fatal Push. So if they put that face down, I know one of those cards. But really, all I'm looking for is a land here. Perfect. Let's get an island, get down our Murktide. We need to make this Murktide like small enough to where it won't die if they do something like Dismember, but big enough to where they need to respect it with Jace. If they want to minus Jace on it, that's A-okay with me. Now, when it's got a card available, let's pick up Tamio. Brainstorm with Jace. Fetch land. And a spell bomb back. Play out our fetch. Go ahead and fetch away the fetch and the spell bomb. I don't care about those. Recast a Murktide. We've got counterspell backing it up. If they have a counterspell, we've got subtlety. If their last card happened to be a subtlety of their own. And we'll just go to the next turn with like a Tamio ult and a Jace on board. Yep. All right, what you got? Finally deciding to brainstorm with their Jace. I think if they had brainstormed like the first couple of times, this game would be completely over. They would have won it by a mile. But I think because they chose to fate seal the first couple times, they really like opened up the window to give me a chance here. And that's a pretty big deal at this point. I'm gonna go for counterspell on the Kaito. So if their last card is a counterspell back, I can spell snare instead of going for the hard cast subtlety. So let's go ahead and ult our Tamio. We've got spell snare in case of a bowmaster. Cool. I do believe we're going to play out a frog and try to grow the FrogTide big enough to just kill the Jace. So let's go for that real quick. Stern Scolding. Got one counter spell, but I think that'll be fine. So that's 2 cards in the yard. Don't need this Thought Seize. I could just go attack for 8, bowmaster it, but I think I'd rather just fill it with activation here, or kill it with 1 attack. Let's get rid of a Stern Scolding. Unfortunately, I 1, 2, yeah, I don't have nearly enough instants and sorceries to kill them as much as I would love to. Scavenger Regent. What does this do? Each non-dragon gets -X, -X. So they can do that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be fine. So we're going to leave that on top. Say go. And you have got a Scavenger Regent. On to game 3. Don't think I'm changing up anything. Yeah. Let's run it back. If I were playing this in paper and my opponent was really, really adamant about fate sealing me, I would honestly maybe consider boarding out a bowmaster or 2. Probably not since they showed Kaito, but I would at least consider it. It's like a next level sideboard choice. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just too like 20 or 2009 brain. I'm just like seeing Jace and wondering how you don't zero the Jace. But could very well be wrong there. been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Yeah. That was kind of worst case scenarios, that they would just have Cameo into Frog. Make me use up my fatal push. Yep. That's a lot of Bowmasters. Been that. I think my entire plan here is I just need to get Kaito down. I could go for Bowmaster in response to this. If they get a tap surveil, I think I am going to try to Bowmaster here after they surveil. Second thought, maybe not. Kind of want to see if I can get them to fight over this Bowmaster on the stack. So I'm going to let them go to damage. Psychic Frog trigger on the stack. They're going to ninjutsu. And they got the Stern Scolding. Okay. Well, that's a rough one for the home team. So I could Bowmaster their Kaito. Put it down to 3, attack for 2, put it to 1. Or I could just ninjutsu Kaito at it. Put it to 1, but get Kaito on the battlefield. Pick up Kaito. This way, my Kaito is not dead to like plus or it's not dead to just attack from Kaito and Bowmaster. Need a little more than that. They could go like Fatal Push Tamio, Kaito plus 1, Bowmaster, attack my Kaito, and I'd be in a pretty terrible spot at that, or if that was their rollout, but I don't think I'm beating that if it is. Alright. So they're attacking at me, which Kaito only triggers if it deals damage to a player. It does not trigger, or you can't zero and draw if it deals damage to my Kaito. Think I'm just gonna let this go. I think I'd rather keep my Tamio around. Yep. This frog plus FrogTide. Right. So we can Bowmaster down their Kaito. That's good. I could stun down the Murktide. That's probably the best play. Stun down the Murktide. Well, let's see. Frog's at a 2-3. So if I stun down the Murktide and attack at the Kaito, they'd have to discard all 3 cards to answer the frog. They'd have to discard all 3 cards for the frog to eat the Kaito. And then I would be Bowmastering down the Kaito. I'd have a clue token off Tamio. Murktide would be down for a couple turns. Now let's just go stun the Murktide. Bowmaster down the Kaito. And we'll pass after that, or play Spellbomb and pass. I don't think attacking at them accomplishes anything here. Cling to Dust me. Sure. Triggers the Bowmaster. I'm going to fly the frog. Attack at me. It's a Bowmaster on their side. Another frog. Just gonna go for the Stern Scolding here. If they do have another Bowmaster, so be it. Alright, they don't. Alright, well now this might be like turnaround point. If I go Kaito stun their frog, then I just get like a decent attack in with the squad. Hit them for 7, get a clue token. Everything's still tapped down for a turn. What do we got? Go for the flash in subtlety. I got nothing. Weird one. Like game 1, opponent definitely had the rollout on us, having the frog, having the subtlety for our subtlety. Game 2, I really do believe they misused the Jace a little bit. Like you can work towards eventually fate sealing your opponent out and winning that way, but I would not work to that until you have like the board locked up and interaction in hand. And I think that whole time they were fate sealing, they had like 1 card in hand. We had 3 or 4 or something. And then that game 3, they had a really good opener. It did seem like they bricked a little bit there in the midpoint. And I don't think they respected Kaito enough. I think like they got the Kaito down on their side and didn't really work to protect it, and then didn't really work to get my Kaito off the board. And Kaito is just such a ridiculous like stopgap planeswalker in situations like this where you get to stun down your opponent's biggest thing, stop their card advantage, stop their board presence, and then use that tempo to start building your own side while keeping pressure up with Kaito. So really fun game, really cool to showcase some differences in Dimir gameplay. But yeah, let's move on to the second one. All right, back with round number 2. Hopefully it's a little bit brighter in here. Like turn the lights on between rounds. Slowish hand. It's got some interaction. I don't love it. Like I'd rather keep a 7 with access to a frog, because I don't know if these spell snares are going to be live. But at the same time, like I've got a Surveil, I've got a Preordain, I've got interaction. Keep that on top to get closer to hard casting subtlety. This back-to-back mirror matches. Back-to-back mirror matches would be wild. Oh my god, it is. It is. I regret throwing back that fetch land. Alright, Dismember's not terrible. It's not great, but not terrible. The mirror match is basically just a race to, like, who gets down the first big Murktide. So if you race and just, like, jam a small Murktide, oh, it's not. It's mill. Never mind. I was going to say, if you race and jam a small Murktide and your opponent just has, like, a bigger one to follow it up, then your small Murktide didn't matter. But if you have, like, small Murktide, they play bigger Murktide, you respond with, like, another Murktide, it can get a little interesting. But, as we see, we are not against the mirror. So, I would like to untap and resolve a Murktide. I'm just going to surgical my force negation. Okay. Thankfully, this fractured sanity didn't mill over anything too relevant. Unfortunately, I'm sitting here with a couple spell snares against mill, which is not what I want. Here's a Murktide. Fractured sanity, okay. Another fractured sanity. So my best draw is very quickly becoming like Psychic Frog. Or my opponent just never seeing another land. Because we're getting to a point where they just discarded a Drown in the Lock. Like right after their Drowns came online. So I'm assuming they have another copy of Drown. This is like, ironically, one of the few points where Spell Snare is not that bad. I think I'm just going to go for Subtlety here. Not doing anything with this Subtlety and not tapping off of Spell Snare. Put the crab on the bottom. They're also probably just sitting on like a bunch of Archmage's charms. Or not Archmage's charms, Archive Trap. Same thing. Just quad fractured sanity. Oh boy. I still have my basics. Yes, at the moment. Opponent wisely choosing not to shock in. Come on, Psychic Frog. Another Murktide would have been pretty nice too. All right. So if they've got Archive Trap, it doesn't matter if I do this now or after. I just want my mana available. So there we go. I don't think they should be doing this in response to their own field. I think they should be waiting just in case I don't like float mana. It kind of just gave me a free mana there. Well, I guess they can't have Drown Surgical Drown without another land. All right, so that's on me. I talk trash about double spell snare, ends up coming up clutch. So I'm sorry, spell snare. Don't take it personally. Really like nothing I want to bring in. Signs do nothing. Stern Scolding only hits crabs. Harbinger's pretty bad. Jace is mid. Subtlety's big and expensive. I'll just swap out the 2 Spellbomb for 2 Tameo. There might be a world where I want to swap out a Subtlety for something, like a Subtlety for a Sauron's Ransom. Actually, I think I'm going to do just that. Little extra help against Crab in the early game, plus just another threat that I can hold up mana for and flash in. Really good if they don't have Crab into Fatal Push. I think I would rather... I'd rather mull to, like, a 6 or a 5 with a Murktide than keep a 7 that just gets Fatal Pushed and stops. There's a Murktide. We also get a removal spell for a Crab. Or potentially just like Subtlety one. So I am going to keep this. I know I need to draw a second land, but there's a chance we have time. I'm going to mull our All-Star from last game. Spell Bomb. Okay. Okay. I know it looks weird putting the Murktide on top. I'm assuming there's a reasonable chance my opponent's going to mill me here. whether that be a crab or something else. Of course, as soon as I say that, they don't. I look like an idiot. We'll figure it out. Hope. Been a field of ruin. Have a field of ruin. Not gonna fetch yet. If opponent has got an archive trap, I think I want to make them like fire off the field and go for the archive trap before I do anything. They might just be waiting for me to go for a surveil. This is going to be a little bit of odd sequencing here. Fetching out the Watery Grave first, and then going for the Surveil. So I've got 2 open blue mana if opponent decides to go for an Archive Trap. If I go and get the Surveil land first and resolve my Surveil, and then they go for like Field of Ruin or Archive Trap, I've got to shuffle it away. I'll put that on top. See what we got going on. And like here, I don't know why Field of Ruin in response to this Thoughtseize. I guess they have Drown in the Lock. They're trying to protect it. Or they want to just spell bomb. Sure. I don't know if I've seen Mill play spell bomb. Like, I know I've seen him play Leyline of the Void. We'll just take the Fractured Sanity. Leave him with the Tasha's and the Fatal Push Surgical. Just kind of take the one we can't interact with. Surgical, my Thoughtseize. You got it. It's kind of cool that they can, like, bounce the Aboro to turn on Revolt for Fatal Push. So if I find a land to hard cast this Subtlety. just going to go ahead and fetch this now. Don't give them a chance to archive trap on their turn. So Tasha's push, unknown, unknown. I've still got a FrogTide in the deck. Sure. Fatal push a crab. Untap, get a FrogTide down with a counterspell backup. Still no Tasha's and fatal push. I'm gonna counterspell this. I'm honestly not sure it matters that much. Just thinking of like average CMC left in my deck, and it's kind of good for me. Like I've still got another Kaito. I've got another subtlety, another FrogTide. So it's probably not the end of the world if that Tasha's resolves. I guess we're going to find out. Yeah, so we got 10 cards. I forgot about Sink into Stupor as well. Flash and Subtlety. They don't currently have Revolt. Okay, so this is 9. I don't have a way to kill this turn. I don't think. Thinking of lines of like fatal push, target my own guy, counterspell the fatal push, spell bomb, crack it on myself. That only exiles 3. It only gets it up to 12 damage. So I'm just gonna attack in, pass the turn. Hold up our counterspell and hope that gets us somewhere. Fair enough. Up to 2-0. We'll catch you back for round 3. Round number 3. So we're on the draw. We've got a Thoughtseize, Spell Snare, Counter Spells, like pretty good interaction. Kind of suck if our opponent's on like a turn 1 Ocelot Pride, but we do have a Bowmaster, so I guess we'll keep this and kind of see what happens. It's got an Omnath little avatar, so they can't be up to anything fun. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So if this is like a Corey Steel deck, I'd rather just hold up Spell Snare this turn. If it's something more dangerous, and we'll deal with that when we get there. For one, I'm just gonna pass back. Like, I've got no answer for a Corey Steel, so if I just let them resolve one, I'm kinda SOL. Now, if I go for a Bowmaster, the odds of it stopping Delirium are like next to zero. Give it a shot. Yep. No Delirium yet. Ah, they found it. Um, Push is good. Tameo's good. We're just trying to buy a little bit of time to get down to Murktide and like clog up the ground. Yeah, get one of these off the board. Take a few points here. I need to counterspell or spell snare something. Looks like about as good of a target as I'm gonna get. Should just be attacking with this token. It's not blocking anything. We're dead to a lightning bolt. We're dead to an unholy heat. We're dead to a lava dart. No, not dead to a lava dart. Triple Dragon's Rage Channeler start. Little tough to deal with. That's why we got sideboard games. Stern Scolding, I know I'm bringing in. Nihil Spellbomb, I know I'm bringing in. Meat Hook and Subtlety are like a little bit on the iffier side. But I think if I just cut Kaito, Thoughtseize, then maybe just like the Sauron's Ransom. Dismember's not great, but I like Dismember more than Kaito. This is always like a really tough point on stream when you've got people asking like, "Oh, why'd you keep in Dismember?" And it's like, well, what are you like boarding in over that Dismember? I don't want Dismember in the deck, but Do I want Dismember more than Thoughtseize? Yeah. Do I want it more than Harbinger of the Seas? Yeah. So. Okay. One of the big questions I need to figure out in this matchup is obviously I want to just jam a turn 2 Frog. And then start like discarding aggressively into Frog, get the Murktide down quickly, go from there. The problem is if my opponent has a turn 2 Quarry Steel Cutter, is that like a series I'm okay with? I think I'm just gonna pass with Counterspell. I think answering a Quarry Steel is just more important than dealing with this Channeler at the moment. I can't give up the chance of taking this Channeler out. I know it's like a risky play here. I don't think they're going to have mutagenic growth in the deck post board. They could have another Quarry Steel and just resolve it, but I don't think I can afford to not have my Bowmaster like take out a relevant card there. Like this, yeah, they've got the Quarry Steel. Okay. We just get down a 4/4 Murktide, hold up Counterspell. Get down a Frog, hold up Counterspell. I guess between those, I like Frog a little bit better. Just so I can try to save this this Murktide for when it's a little bit bigger. Survives a little bit more. Let's go for the Counterspell. Am I going for the Counterspell? Yeah. 3, 6, 7, 8. Just throw the token in front of here. I need to find like another fatal push or something good off of this. I'm not sure that qualifies. I don't really care about the channeler attacking. But obviously, like, Corey Steele is just going to go wide with whatever. Maybe I just don't want the filtering. Is this? Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one somewhere. That looks like just a lot of text to me, so we're gonna counterspell. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. No attack. I need damage. If I attack with the FrogTide and not the frog, I think there's a pretty good chance I just die. Just like a lightning bolt does me in. I think I want to make sure, get in with the frog, try to get an extra card. Looks like a blocker to me. Yep. I gotta remember this lava dart in the yard. They do off the preordain. One top, one bottom. Well, if their last card is a lightning bolt or a chain to the rocks. Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a series of draws right there. I don't think there was anything I really could have done different this game. Well, I take that back. I could have held up second counterspell for another turn just to stop the Corey Steele. Like, this card alone polarizes the matchup so much. It just doesn't make sense to tap off of counter for Corey Steele. Like, ever. Almost to the point of just saying that if you've got a counter, it needs to be for Corey Steele. and do not use it on anything else. So this is round number 4. And we're going to ship this back. Like a little more functional mana. That's like an awkward one all around. Feel really bad if they got something I need to force on like turn 1 or 2. It's going to be an Emery. All right. This is what I would call a rough one from the get-go. Like we have the answer to the Emery, which is nice, but we kind of have to hope that they don't have anything going on right away. These things are like the complete opposite of not having anything going on. Pass to opponent's turn before we Bowmaster. I'm surprised they're going for that bobble right there. Now Mox Opal is turned off at the moment. If they have like a metallic rebuke. Going upstairs with this Bowmaster because there's a chance that they don't even flip the Tameo here. Or no, they have to flip it. Never mind. That was kind of stupid. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. Alt Monitor, Kappa Cannoneer. Okay, this is a weird game. Mox Opal, Thought Monitor, unknown. Clockwork, it's more Emery's. They don't have anything to buy back with Tamio at the moment. And Tamio ulting kills them, which is honestly hilarious. Uh, we're gonna exile these lava spur boots just so they can't have like a hasty thought monitor or something. FrogTide. Oh, I guess that's technically better than most draws. I could be like attacking. Oh, come on. Could be attacking at them instead of the Tamio, but it doesn't do any difference. Like the amount of hits I need in to actually make it relevant into them is so low. Me sitting here dealing 1 damage to them isn't getting me anywhere. Like I need a big brick out of them, and I need to discard to the frog to start getting a clock going, like a building clock. Okay. Amber's fine. They're to tick up Tamio this turn. No. Part of me just wants to let this go so I can get a couple extra Bowmaster triggers. I think I'm going to. I think with this counter spell, it's like enough to make me want to just let it resolve. You know, that's what I get. So now Opal's online. Thought monitor. Another Opal. Sure. Get back thought cast. That's fine because now the frog isn't getting shrunk. So they are just dead on board through a fatal push on the construct and a counter spell. You got it. I'm just gonna shoot down the thought monitor with the bowmaster. I've already played land for turn. Mox Opals aren't changing anything, or more Mishra's Baubles aren't changing anything. I'm going to respond to this with Fatal Push on the construct. So if they've got something like Metallic Rebuke, they can't cast it. And if they have something like another portable hole, they won't have anything available. They just have to like cast that. I've got Counterspell. Weird game. So, I know I want Harbinger to help deal with Saga. Spellbomb's good for Emery. Scolding is fine. Not great, but it's fine. Kind of the same thing with Consign. Like, there's some stuff to hit. Kaito's like good at upgrading a Bowmaster. I don't think it's a great card in the matchup overall. But if the goal is just to like swap out a Bowmaster for something that's got a little more pop, it's good. Probably actually want Subtlety on the draw. These Kaitos here. I think I'm honestly like keeping them in mostly because they're an answer to like Aether Spellbomb loops. It's like going round and round on a couple little spots that I don't think matter that much. All right, keep because it's got an answer to a turn 1 Emery. I'm pretty much at the point against any of these like Affinity, Emery, Tameo style piles that if an opening hand doesn't have an answer to a turn 1 Emery, it's like an auto ship. Because Emery will just run away with the game like nobody's business. Two to the top. It's a pretty good one. So let's play out this frog, see if we can maybe get our opponent to fight over this and then slam a Harbinger on 3. This is really good for us. All right, attack in. If they decide to block, I know I'm throwing away Undercity Sewers. Opponent's not going to block, so we'll just take our point of damage here, draw a card. Go ahead and play out our Strip Mine Harbinger. Say go. Let's go ahead and force a Thought Cast. Don't have to deal with a Tameo getting flipped. It's back to us. Start by swinging in. See if we can get a little more information before we make any follow-up plays. Though it's probably just going to be something like push the Tameo, play another Harbinger. But I might as well wait till I have a little more knowledge before I do that. I think anything has really changed my play. I think if opponent had a Mox Opal or Mox Amber or something, they would have played it by now. And main phase cracking clue right here is kind of the international sign for this game's probably over. And here's a Murktide. Now we've got lethal going into next turn with a Stern Scolding, Dismember, Consign. Nice. Love to see a win over Affinity. Not the easiest matchup in the world, but it did seem like that game 3, our opponent kept a little bit of a clunky, slow hand. Maybe they had a portable hole or something and just chose to go for the Saga turn 2 instead. Kind of got punished for that. But no Mox Opal, no turn 1 Emery or turn 2 Emery even. Kind of makes things a little bit easier for us. So we'll catch you back for round number 5. All right, round number 5. We're on the play. Love to see it. Not a great hand. I think I'm going to ship it back. This is one of those decision points that, like, I feel I differ from a lot of the community members that I discussed the deck with. Here, I think this hand is just like not proactive enough. I could try to dig for a frog, but I think I'd rather just take a mulligan to like try to find one. And I get kind of rewarded pretty heavily for a decision like this because now I've got turn 1 removal spell, turn 2 frog, force backup, or subtlety backup. I've got a surveil on turn 1. So I've kind of just got like everything I want out of a hand because I just said, hey, that first one, not proactive enough, especially on the play in the blind. Hollow one. So let's we're gonna let the hollow one resolve, and I'm gonna go for end of turn basic swamp dismember. This way I can save my force negation for something on their turn. I can save the subtlety. Ooh. Part of me really wants to hold up that bowmaster instead of going for frog. Because if an opponent goes for like a goblin lore, that could just be almost a win on the spot. But I don't mind just holding up force here. Hmm. We'll discard force and subtlety. If they've got another bolt, sucks. I still have a bowmaster, but and we get to keep our bowmaster. That probably could not have gone much better for me. Carry on. Really don't think that could have gone much better. All right. So definitely rewarded. Some of the decision making there, like the choice to discard the 2 cards to the frog. If I forced like force pitch subtlety, I'm still losing the same amount of cards, but I'd rather have the 2 counters on the frog. So that's why I'd rather discard instead of casting the force. If they have another lightning bolt, like I said, yeah, it sucks. But my last card I know in is Bowmasters. It's like a good card in the matchup. So I'm not completely like SOL, but at the same time, their deck that plays a very limited amount of interaction. So I feel like there's a reasonable chance, especially in the blind game 1, that they probably didn't keep a hand with like a bunch of lightning bolts instead of keeping a hand that had a good bit of interaction. Or they probably didn't keep a hand with a bunch of lightning bolts over a hand that like Burning Inquiry and Goblin Lord and pushed their game plan forward, if that makes sense. So Spellbomb to help with Delirium and Detectives Phoenix. Stern Scolding for any of the small creatures. Subtlety again for the creatures. Meat Hook to kind of sweep up the board. Get rid of Thought Seizes. Kaitos are a little slow. I think I'll just drop a Tameo. Either Tameo or Sauron's Ransom. Like, Tameo's cool because you have hands where you Tameo and they like Burning Inquiry and you just get to flip your Tameo. But it's not a consistent game plan. And Tameo just being like on the board isn't really doing much. He's not like really chumping very effectively. She's not holding the ground very effectively. She's just kind of there. You know what I mean? And then I'll keep just about any 7 against Hollow One. As long as the hand is like somewhat functional. So I've got mana, I've got some spells I can cast. I'll pretty much keep everything past that, because if opponent goes for a Burning Inquiry on turn 1, then that opener might just not matter. So I don't want to like mull aggressively looking for something specific, and then my opponent just go Burning Inquiry, and like it all goes kind of south. I'm going to take this hit for 2 so I can hold up Stern Scolding in case they have a follow-up threat. So at 2 damage in the long run doesn't really matter. So I'd rather wait and stop like a more explosive follow-up. Like a Phoenix. Okay. Now I will Fatal Push this because I don't really want to take 4 in the air. Yeah, it's fine. Might be good against something like a Blood Moon here. I don't know if they're a Blood Moon deck, but kind of assume everybody is if the mana can afford it. Sure. One I have questions about. Now if they've got fetch up a lightning bolt, I feel like a genius for keeping this force negation on top. Love to see it. Love when a plan comes together. Okay, so 4-1 with Venom1's list. Definitely some things that I liked. A couple things I was a little questionable of. For example, Tameo. We flipped Tameo once against the mirror, but outside of like that one matchup and that one game, I never really felt like I wanted Tameo, which has kind of been my issue with her in a lot of my lists. Is it just felt like she hasn't done anything impactful, and it's kind of the same thing with Kaito. Like they're really good cards, but I'm finding myself in so many situations where game 1 they're a little bit too slow in the blind. Maybe some matches they have a chance of catching up a little bit, but I'm boarding them out so frequently that I feel like I would rather have cards in my main deck that can kind of utilize that plan of aggressively going for Frog or Murktide, and game 2 and 3 just board in like more cheap options to help interact with those matchups. So against stuff like the Corey Steel Cutter Prowess deck, not having a third copy of Spell Snare where a Tamio or a Kaito was, or not having like an extra force or something to bring in, just feels like it hurts a lot more than not having Tamio in the main deck against Hollow One or something like that against Boros. So, still to me, I feel like these 4 slots in the main, at least, I'd rather be something else. The Kaito I want in the 75. I think Kaito is, you saw in the Dimir mirror, it's so good at swinging games or helping you come from behind against any of like the grindy matchups that I want it in the 75. I just don't think I want it in the main. Uh, if we look back at that league, we saw Prowess, Hollow One, Mill, and Dimir. Um, and then I don't even remember what the last matchup was. But over half of those, 3 out of those 4, I don't really want Kaito in the deck. And that's kind of what I'm seeing again, or at a broader spectrum against a lot of Boros and Prowess and Eldrazi, just like matchups I don't want to draw a Kaito. There's a lot of times that I find a Kaito and I just can't cast it, period. And I don't want that in my main deck. I want all my main deck stuff to be like castable, even if it's just pitching it, but like 2 mana essentially or less for everything in the main. So Ransom, Kaito, little too expensive for the blind. Tamio, better on the not being expensive front, but again, game 1, I value Psychic Frog and FrogTide so much more that I would rather just cut out a lot of the fluff and go to like a aggressively mulligan to a threat and support game plan game 1. And kind of what I was getting into earlier, where I think my thought process, especially on game 1s, differs so much, is I'm really trying to be proactive with whatever hand I can find in the blind, because I think that's how we win games against decks like Boros and Eldrazi and whatnot. I think where people get into trouble is trying to treat every blind matchup like it's a removal heavy mid range mirror where you keep an opening hand with like a Bowmaster and 2 preordains and 4 lands, and you're like, okay, I can find stuff eventually. I got a little bit of interaction. Maybe you got a fatal push in there, whatever. Like I got some interaction. I'll grind out with my cantrips, and I just don't think that's what you can do game 1. I think game 1 you need to be Thoughtseize into Frog, or Frog into Force, or Thoughtseize into Counterspell into Merc, or something like that. And you just can't do that if you're being too passive. But then game 2 and 3, you have the ability to board in your consigns, your stern scoldings, your harbingers, whatever, and formulate like a cohesive game plan that might involve more grinding out. So for me, I really think that a league like this, trying something on the other side of the fence, really solidified how I feel about building the deck. Game 1, just being more proactive, leaning into more cards that help you be more proactive, like going back up to the 4th cantrip, maybe adding a 5th or a 6th. The 3rd spell snare I missed, especially against stuff like Corey Steel. Maybe even the 4th force negation to try to maximize your Thoughtseize into Frog into force matches. Sideboard, I think the sideboard was reasonable. 3 Harbinger. What happened against the Affinity deck is kind of what has been happening to me a lot when I've run 3 Harbinger, is I just end up drawing multiples. And like, if the first one is doing its job, I don't need the second one. And if they're able to like get around the first one, then the second one probably doesn't matter. Like if opponent just had a Mox Opal, then that second Harbinger doesn't do anything for me. If their hand was just a bunch of sagas and they didn't have an Opal, then that first Harbinger just like locks them out of the game, and I don't need to find the second one. So I think I would rather devote that sideboard slot to something else. The 3 Stern Scoldings was nice. 4 Consign, nice. 2 Spellbomb were fine. These one-ofs down here. Jace, really, really good in the mirror, clearly. I usually think if I've got Kaito in the deck, I don't need Kaito and Jace. So if I were to put Kaito back to the board, which is, again, just kind of my thought process on the list that I've started running, then I don't have room to play 3-4 mana walkers in the board, so I'll just drop the Jace. I think Kaito does a better job of swinging matches because it can attack, and that's a really big deal. Meat Hook Massacre, it's just like your sweeper of choice. I don't like... Alright, I like Meat Hook against Boros, being able to take out a bunch of cat tokens, stabilize your life a little bit. I think that's really, really good. I do not like Meat Hook against Prowess or any of the Corey Steel decks or anything like that, because you just run the risk of your opponent going like, Lava Dart you in response and my stuff lives, or Mutagenic Growth and 2 of my things live, and you just can't afford to have your sweeper cost like 4 or 5 mana to try to play around your opponent having an instant to grow their stuff. But Path of Peril is one I've been reconsidering a lot recently. It's 1 and 2 black, destroy all creatures CMC 2 or less. So it would take out like Frog or Bowmaster, but takes care of the Prowess guys regardless of how big they are. It takes care of like the Slick Shot show-offs. Dragon's Rage Chandler, you don't have to worry if they have Delirium. So I think that's one I'm going to try out a little bit more. And then the last spot, this extra subtlety. I think I'd just rather have it back in the main if I was going to run subtlety. But I also don't think subtlety was particularly impactful that league. We saw the mirror, which is like the big subtlety matchup. But we subtletied once, they subtletied back. If that subtlety had just been like another counter spell, we would have been fine. And I don't think we evoked it on anything else like the entire league. It's just Force Fodder. We hardcast it once. We evoked it once. The hardcast was against the mirror. We were kind of in fine shape anyway. And then the evoke was against the mirror where they subtletied back. So if you're expecting a bunch of mirrors, then I think subtlety is a really good card. If you're not expecting a bunch of mirrors, I think it's kind of mid. But that's a little bit of my breakdown. I do like the list. I think I like 67-ish of the 75. Which I know is like a good chunk of the core of the deck, but I think having a lot of 4-ofs is really great for consistency. So Venom1, thumbs up for me. Nice list. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. As always, links in the description down below to stuff like the Twitter, the Blue Sky, if you're not a Twitter fan, the YouTube, well, we're on YouTube, the Discord, if you want to come join the Control Freak Discord, talk all things Dimir, and the Twitch, if you want to come check out a live stream. Other than that, hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. Stay safe, enjoy some good food and company. I'll catch y'all back live later. Adios for now.